Good morning and welcome to Rose Red Homestead, where we have fantastic news. Actually, two things. First of all, we got it. I was able to successfully bake a beautiful loaf of bread in the Cobb, and we're going to do that again today. We're going to reproduce what I did last time. But another thing happened too. On Monday, shortly after our video went up, Jim got a call from Cobb America that he missed and didn't find it until later that night. But in the afternoon, he received an email from the president of Cobb America with his phone number and asked us to call him. So I returned the call and we had a most delightful conversation. My goodness, it lasted for 20-30 minutes. And of course, Monday was our Micro Moment Monday when we released the new charcoal cooker that we have decided to work into our redundancy system for being able to cook off grid. And the man's name was George, and he just was so delighted. They had a great day with sales and a lot of phone calls from many of you who were interested in checking out the Cobb cooker. And he really liked our video. I think some of our viewers mentioned to him where they had gotten the information. And so he tracked us down through our purchase of the Kitchen in a Box Cobb that we revealed on our Micro Moment Monday. And he said, you got almost everything right in your video. So there were some things that I didn't quite get all the way right. And he volunteered to help us in any way that we needed help to make sure that we were getting the good information out to all of you. And I explained to him, helping me helps hundreds of thousands of other people, our viewers, who are also very interested in getting themselves prepared for uncertain times that are pretty obviously facing us. And so being able to have something that we can reliably cook on that can have a variety of options in the way we cook. He is from Texas and actually was there a couple of years ago when Texas had that massive grid failure in the dead of winter, and so many people were concerned about staying warm and being able to cook. And he was explaining how so many of their customers there in Texas who had the Cobb cooker, well, they call it the Cobb Grill, were able to cook their food. So he also noted that I wasn't too pleased with the cookbook. And so he said that they have a new cookbook out that I might like better. So he's sending me a copy of that cookbook, which I will share with you when it gets here. And then he also said that because I'm preferring to use regular charcoal instead of the cobblestone, he spent quite a bit of time explaining to me about charcoal. He is probably one of the world's experts on charcoal. He has had a lot of experience in that particular business, done a lot of distribution of charcoal and knows the business inside and out. And so he wanted me to know that the cobblestone is made of all natural ingredients. It is coconut. And of course, that coconut is a renewable resource, so that makes it really good. So he said he's going to convince me to use cobblestones. And I'm game for that. I'll give it a fair shot. I am concerned about the price differential, but he said in the end it works out to be about the same. So not sure about that, but we'll be testing that. One of the things that Jim and I have established from the very beginning when we started this YouTube channel is that we do not accept sponsors because we want to not feel that we are beholden to anyone. And we are not going to, and we've had tons of people contact us and said, if we send you a free whatever it is that they're selling and you use it, we would like for you to then feature it on your YouTube channel. And we simply do not do that. This was entirely a different situation where we found the product, we used it, we loved it, and then they contacted us. We are still not engaging in any kind of a sponsorship or any kind of a partnership that would give us a commission on any of our people buying their product. We just like people to do their own business. And what he is willing to share with us is information. And we love that. We absolutely love that. And so we welcome our information partnership with George and Cobb America. I told him that we had already planned on doing a whole series of videos on various ways to use the Cobb, because that is right in line what we were going to do anyway. We want to put it through its paces and share that with you. And so we're just delighted about how this whole thing has turned out, and so happy that they had such a good sales day based on our video. And this is a product that we can really get behind. So on with today's business in baking a loaf of bread. Now today's bread is out of our bread book, and here it is. Many of you just got this book for $4 on our lightning sale that closed out our celebration of our 5-year anniversary. So if you have the book, it is on page 39. And this is a recipe that you can use completely with your food storage ingredient. I milled some of our white winter wheat this morning, and it's in here. And then it calls, because it is 100% whole grain, I'm also using quinoa right here that I have cooked up a little bit. That's going to be going into the bread. So it's 100% whole grain. And then everything else, the yeast, the salt, the honey, we still have honey stored from when we were, before we shut down our beehive business. We gave our hives to our children. It was just getting too much for us to manage. Those hives, when they're full of honey, weigh 80 pounds, and Jim's had a shoulder replacement, and I can no longer lift 80 pounds. So our children were the recipients of our hives, but we've stored tons of honey that never goes bad. You don't have to dehydrate it, you don't have to freeze dry it, you don't have to do anything to it except put it in jars, put the lid on, and leave it. And it stays good forever, literally. Everything else, including powdered milk, we've beefed up the protein in this recipe by adding a half a cup of powdered milk. All of these things come from food storage. So we're going to quickly get the bread together, and then just before it is ready to go out into the on the Cobb, we'll take you out there and get the Cobb all set up so that you can see how we do it. And we'll wait for George to give us feedback, because I do something that's just a little bit different. So this is my Ankersham, my kitchen machine. I call it my mean machine. This replaced my KitchenAid, and I talk about that in another video. I'm going to put a card right up here in the corner so that you can check out a video I did on the difference between mixing and kneading in the KitchenAid and this Ankersham, so that you can see the difference. It is really important to get bread kneaded correctly, and sometimes my KitchenAid, that dough just rode the dough hook instead of actually being kneaded, but I talk about that in that other video. So I'm going to turn this to mix. And this is just mixing the dry ingredients. Now I'm going to add the quinoa. The quinoa has cooled. This is the honey and the oil. And 1 cup of water. Now we're going to continue with the mixing. Putting in the scraper. And now we're going to start the kneading. Setting it for 8 minutes. Just quit. You can see how clean the bowl is. It has been kneading for 8 minutes. So I am going to release the roller and take it over here. So after I take it out of the bowl, I always just like to hand check it by kneading it a time or two myself, and it is beautifully done. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so we are ready to put it in this Cambro container and mash it down. This, of course, has the measurements on the side, so we can easily see when it has doubled. And this is a very nutritious, nutrient-dense bread. Okay. So it will probably take between half an hour and 45 minutes for that to double in size. So we will be back when it is time to shape it. And then after that, we will let it do its final proof and get it into the cob. A couple of things that are coming up, just to let you know. Very soon we're going to have another RRH, Rose Red Homestead class, and that will be on how to organize anything. And so I'm putting that class together, have been for a little while. So that is coming up soon. Also, over the past couple of years, we have had several requests to show how to make tallow from beef fat. And so we are going to also be doing that one. And along with some videos that are going to be showing the Cobb cooker and other things that are just perfectly aligned with what we do in terms of food security, self-reliance, and emergency preparedness. So we'll see you as soon as this is ready to put into the pan. Well, as you can see, our bread has doubled in size, and it took about an hour. And I have just put Stearamine, which is my disinfectant, all over the countertop, so we're ready to go. And so we're going to degas this. This recipe makes just a little bit too much dough to go in this bread pan. This is a 4x8 bread pan. I'm wanting to do smaller loaves at first in the cob, and then I will do larger loaves. So when we get it to the right size, I'm going to trim off the rest, and I'm going to make some hamburger buns with the remainder. I think it makes about 3 buns. So, but those I'm going to just cook in here in the kitchen. Now this seems a little grainy because the quinoa is showing. Okay, then we're just going to roll, stretch and roll. And when this gets about as round as I want it to be, which is about right there, I'm just going to trim it. And then we're going to put this in here and knock it down. Boy, I can sure smell that quinoa. This makes really good bread. Tucking in the edges, bringing it to the corners. And then I'm covering it with a grocery bag that I have previously Stearamine so it's clean on the inside. I love grocery bags rather than tea towels to keep the humidity in there. Okay, and then with this little piece, I'm just going to cut it into thirds. And form into a roll and flatten them for hamburger buns. We're going to watch the bread really carefully. Hopefully I can catch it at the right time, about 15 minutes before it's ready to go into a hot environment, an oven, or in this case the Cobb cooker. I'm going to start the cob, and so we'll let the coals ash over to where they're ready to cook, and then we will put the attachments on and let them heat up for about 5 minutes so we can have an oven-like atmosphere inside the dome on the Cobb cooker. But I'll show you all of that when we get out there. So we will come back when we're ready to get the Cobb ready. We are out here on the patio, and Jim just informed me that you can see his reflection in my sunglasses. And so that's how he can also be visible in this video. It's a beautiful spring day out here. We've got fruit trees in bloom, and we've just come through a batch of windy and wet and freezing weather, so who knows. Anyway, we're ready to get the Cobb started. This is the bottom section that is used for every cooking. So it's the outside compartment, then it's the inside. This is the little tray where you put your fire starter. I make my own fire starters out of cotton with a little dab of Vaseline. Vaseline is a petroleum product, but by the time we put food on the grill, it is completely burned away. And so I have 8 pieces of charcoal right there, ready to put on. But first I'm going to light the fire starters. And the charcoal goes on. And then I discovered that our chimney for starting charcoal fits beautifully right down in the moat over the whole operation, and that really helps the charcoal get going faster and also protects it from the wind. So Jim can maybe take a shot down there and you can see that. It's already smoking. So we are probably about 15 minutes away from the charcoal being ready, at which time I will put other attachments on, and I'll show those to you as we do it. So we'll see you when we are ready to put the other attachments on and get it warmed up and ready for the bread. Okay.
Hi there, how are you?
So here we go. The charcoal are pretty much ashed over. Now the next thing that is going to go on is the grill grid. And this is going to act as a heat deflector because we want the heat to dissipate and come up evenly. Then we're going to be putting on the extender because our bread is tall, and because we don't ever want our bread to sit right on a hot plate, we're going to put in the fenced roaster, whatever that is. Then I'm going to put the dome on. And we're wanting this to heat up like an oven, so I have a thermostat in there, and it is registering right now. The internal temperature is 63. So we're going to give it about 5 minutes to start heating up. We want it to be hot like an oven in there. And I have gotten it up to about 415 degrees. Some people are saying they can get it up to 500, and maybe that's what the cobblestone, I don't know. The minute we take the dome off, it's going to lose temperature. So when we put the bread in, we're going to do it quickly, and then we're not going to disturb it so long as the temperature remains good. So we will be back in just probably about 5 minutes or so when we are ready to start our bake. It's been about 12 minutes, and the temperature is right now up to 291. Our bread has crowned, it's got to go in, so it will do some cooking. Now, one of the things that you may have noticed is that I put a little jacket on the dome. This is a welding blanket. It is not combustible until up to 1500 degrees, so we're good. And it helps hold the heat in. I did the same thing with the Coleman camp oven, and it seemed to work really well. So now I'm just going to lift it and get the bread in. My thermostat is still inside. It's not going to go in the bread. I do not want to deflate the bread by poking it with anything. So I'm going to very quickly lift the dome, put the bread in. It's nice and hot in there. And then put the dome back in place. Make sure it's even all the way around and adjust the jacket just a little bit. This is a piece of leftover welding blanket. Obviously, it doesn't fit quite all the way around, but it really, really helped. I did 2 batches of bread, and they weren't wonderful. I did the 3rd batch of bread, and I used this, and it worked just fine. And so that's what I'm going to be using to help my bread along. So we're now at 325, so that is really good. And we're going to not peak. We're going to leave it in for 30 minutes, which is the usual cooking time is between 30 and 40. And with bread, you have to check. With meat, I would not check, but with bread, you have to check to ensure that it is up to the internal temperature of at least 190, between 190 and 200. So we're going to give it ample time to get up there, and then we'll check. And I can also sort of tell by the smell. So we'll be back when we're ready to do our check to see if it is done. Well, here we are. It's been 30 minutes, and I'm a little nervous. The temperature inside the dome has been dropping. It's now at 304. When I did my test loaf, that worked out just fine. At this point in time, it was up to 350, so I'm not even sure that it is done. But it's been in for 30 minutes, so we're going to check it. It will ultimately get done at 300 degrees. And I was hoping that the jacket would work a little bit better than that. We're losing heat. I also remembered that today I'm using 8 charcoal. And if I remember correctly, when I did the other loaf that worked well, I used 9 briquettes. So I'm going to lift the dome and quickly take the temperature to see where we are.
And it does smell like bread.
It does, yes, it does smell great. Okay, so I'm just going to, it is not brown, it is not done, not by a long shot. Okay, so this is not great news. It's not anywhere near done, and it's still very blonde on the top. It should be a lovely brown. So we're going to wait. It's now up to 309. I don't know why. Oh, now it's at 311. That's good. So maybe it's going to go up just a little bit. We still should have at least a half an hour's worth of heat on those charcoal. So 313. We're going to just leave it and see what happens. So we'll be back at some point. Well, I think we have success. After a glitch in the middle, I had to start some more charcoal. I added 4 new briquettes, and after I got them ashed, and it smoked for a while, so our bread might be smoky, but look what we've got. And I bet we've got the correct temperature here. Let me just check. Oh yeah, we're 194. So let's take this in the house. I think our little glitch kind of made it sag in the middle while it was waiting for the heat to go up. But the heat went up to 375. And so we have, I think, a pretty good bake with a delay in the middle. But I don't think the bread is hurt, but let's take it inside and see. All right, so let's turn it out. Now, it did get a little bit more brown on the bottom because it got up so high. I want to show you the loaf that I made yesterday that was totally successful. Actually, it's the last half of the loaf, but the bottom was beautiful. The crumb is just great. Very same recipe that we used on this one. This is just about the same color on top. This one is a little bit lighter on the bottom. I used 9 briquettes. So here's what I learned. And we'll open this up after it's cooled so that we can see the inside. What I learned this time was that even though I think I have about an hour and a half of cook time with the briquettes, once that they are ashed over and ready to cook, and then heating up the dome, that took almost a half an hour to do that. So I lost a half an hour of cooking time just by getting the charcoal ready. And when I put the 4 new ones in, the briquettes that were in the bottom were just little nubs, about like this. And so I need to work my timing just a little bit different. It's good that we had this little glitch because glitches like this teach us a whole lot of things. And so the thing that I'm going to be doing is I think that I'm going to be using 10 briquettes to do bread with charcoal briquettes. Now, I can just hear George speaking in my mind, if you would have used a cobblestone. And so I'm going to try a cobblestone. We'll try a bread with a cobblestone. And he has taught me some things about the cobblestone that I didn't know before. You can break them in half. I read a lot of the reviews about the cobblestones. People love them, but they say that they need to be half the size. Well, you can make them half the size yourself. You can break them in half. You can break them in a quarter, according to what George said. And so what we will do with our next bake, because I think I've nailed now the charcoal. We got a success here with 9 briquettes. We almost had a total success here with a glitch in the middle where I had to add more briquettes. But if I would have started with 10, I don't think that would have happened. So then our next bread attempt on the cob will be with a cobblestone, and we'll see the comparison. With the cobblestones, they light immediately, and then within 3 to 5 minutes, they are ready to cook. So we won't be losing that half an hour up front as we do with charcoal getting ready to bake bread. Now, bread is a different thing, and because it requires an oven-like atmosphere, which is a little bit difficult to get on some of our off-grid equipment. We've done videos baking bread in our solar oven, and they never get brown on the top. We have used our Coleman camp stove over our rocket stove, and the bread gets done, but only if we put it inside a Dutch oven so it doesn't absorb the smoke that comes up from the rocket stove. We've done it in our propane oven, and it comes out beautifully in a propane oven because it's an oven. It's built as an oven. But the cob seems to be so much more versatile, and we're going to be exploring that versatility as things go forward. So we're going to let this cool for just a few more minutes and then cut it open and see if the glitch really damaged the bread. So we'll see you shortly. Right, I'm curious to see what this looks like. It's quite soft. Oh, it looks nice. So here's the trial, and here's today's. I'm going to cut it right here in the dip to see if it's done all the way. And it is. I think it just sunk because it took some time to get the charcoal ready, and it was languishing at a very low temperature, about 129 degrees while I was doing that. So that's probably what caused that little dip. But in any case, it's very edible, it's very good. For those of you who may be curious about the 3 buns that I made as from the scraps of this loaf, while I was out fussing with the charcoal, Jim made lunch for us. Ham sandwiches using those buns, ham left over from Easter. And it was delicious, and they turned out really cute. I wish you could have seen them, but they're in our tummies. So this concludes our trial at trying to show you how to have success with making bread on the cob. And we will be back with more bread videos. I'm really going to nail this. I'm very, very close. And I did have this one success, so I know that it can be done. And we'll compare the briquettes with the cobblestones. And so I'm hoping to have success with both. So thanks for joining us, and we don't shy at all away from showing our missteps and things that don't go perfectly. That is how we all learn, and we know that we hope that we can save you from doing some of the things that we do when we end up making a misstep. So thanks for joining us. We really appreciate our community, and we will see you again very soon with more videos.